Wow, that actually worked. Amazing. Everybody, that's going to be ready.
Hi guys. I'm just here to welcome you all.
That's my way to that.
The summer table is here. This is great.
You got to stand right up close. You gotta learn how to be loud like the rest of us. Okay, you are from New York, Winne, come on.
Now, how would you know I'm from New York?
No, it's all funny.
I got the New York accent. This is the YMCA table over here. Oh my goodness, I wish I could introduce everybody. Can you hear me now? Yes. We've had a lot of people that have traveled away, and thank you so much for coming in. Christopher is from England, so he's probably exhausted right now. And it's so nice for you to be here. I really appreciate it, and so would Gary. So when the music starts, we're going to dance. Even when he was on the walker, he was dancing. Oh my goodness. So many people here, I can't believe it. So you're all doing fine? Good. Good. Especially with the COVID stuff, you know? Oh gosh.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter, the nurse, probably has tested the car, so anybody's not sure. Oh, boy. I can't believe we got people that are here. So anybody got any good jokes for Gary? I'm sure he could choose one by now, too. Oh, yeah. And he probably still hasn't stopped talking. Remember the whole guy out in the YMCA? And every person that went by got a conversation. He had his puzzle. Oh, so many people. Well, I gotta go.
You guys on the 17th, we're like,
Okay, it's me again. The strange guy up here. So. Okay, everybody does Lori Johnny.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate you being here. Just take the time to honor my dad. He was an amazing guy. Thank you. Like my mom, but this day is really just a day about having fun, celebrating the lesson. We would want to be anything sad, so I'm just going to share briefly just some fun memories. My sister's going to read a poem, and then we're going to open up the mic for any, fun memory stories, okay? All right, so really quick, just going to read a few things. And I'm a bad public speaker, so be graceful. So growing up, if my siblings or I wanted permission to do something, we would definitely ask Dad. Every friend that I've ever had would always say the same thing. I love your dad. He is so classic. He's naturally funny without even trying. And honestly, to know my dad was to love my dad. I don't know one person that didn't love my dad that knew him. It was impossible. Okay, my dad, as you know, was refreshingly unpretentious. He was known to rock parachute pants and maybes, wear layered flannel shirts that didn't always match. Always had mints in his pocket, not usually in a wrapper, just free flowing there. Appearances and material things just didn't matter to him. He knew what was truly valuable in life, and I love that about him. Dad was definitely a sports guy. Some of my favorite childhood memories were at Shea Stadium watching the Mets play in New York, and later Angels games when we moved here to California. Dad would always say, I got these great seats. There were usually 3 seats from the top of the stadium. We snuck in candies. But you know what? It didn't matter. It was just always fun being with him. Dad loved being a probation officer. If we have any work friends, thank you for coming. He had a soft spot for his gang kids on probation. He loved his kids. He had an amazing gift of seeing value in every person that he encountered. Seriously, my dad could strike up a conversation with anyone and find common ground. Anyone. Just amazing. One time, he went on a house visit with another officer. The mother who answered the door only spoke Spanish. His attempt at Spanish ended up being one of my all-time favorite stories. Instead of asking, where are the drugs, he asked, where are the toys? The confused mother escorted him to the playroom and pointed. Instead, his partner laughingly told him, no more Spanish here. That was the end of the Spanish. Well, another chapter in my life. When Dad found out I was pregnant, I was barely 19, and initially he was not overly overjoyed, let's be real. But on the day my daughter Cassie was born, they formed a very special bond. Growing up, Cassie would always tell me, Pop-Pop is my best friend. She's following in the footsteps of his and my mother's footsteps. Getting her master's degree in social work, and we're so sad she's not with us today. She's such an important part of our family and my dad's life, so it's a little sad for us. Family always came first to Dad. He doted on and spoiled the grandkids, often sneaking them extra cookies and candy. Danielle. I didn't do anything. And then he would say in a hushed whisper, don't tell your mothers. So we knew because they were all sugar though. We were always welcome at the house to stay for dinner. No invite needed. Sorry, Mom, but thank you. We took our annual family trips to Vegas in August. Staying at the Excalibur Hotel, eating in the food court, swimming in the pool, and playing in the arcade. It was the best. I would trade those trips for a 5-star Hawaiian vacation. They were the best. Dad taught us being together is what really matters. My dad was such a generous person, always thinking about other people. Even though my sister and I are in our 50s, not a week went by when Dad wouldn't call us to let us know, I'm going to the grocery store, do you need it? And even if we said no, we'd still end up with some bananas or that was just that. That was Dad. Dad loved over-tipping food servers and carrying the bill if we like stuck him down. He'd walk it over to them and thank them. It made him feel good to make people smile and feel important. I love that about him. Dad enjoyed being with his friends and traveling with Mom. He was always down for a good time. I mean, the Bader Bakers Parade. Okay, if you don't know what that is, go home and Google it. You'll laugh. Really good time though. They were so much fun. Dad was an animal lover, and it wasn't just his own dogs. It was common for neighborhood dogs or cats to end up at our house. Even squirrels and the birds stood at the back door looking for treats. Animals know to get I just wanted to acknowledge all the neighbors and the YMCA community. Dad liked to talk a lot. The last few years, the stories would not always reach their intended destination. But thank you for your kindness, patience, and support. It means the world. Thank you so much. I also want to honor my beautiful Aunt Joan, my mom's baby sister. She passed away right before Dad. She was beautiful, funny, a true dog lover, and a fierce advocate and loving mother for her boys. We have one of them here today. It's quite a blessing. It's been a hard year for our family, but we really appreciate all the support and love. We're so grateful. And lastly, sorry, but to my amazing mom. She tirelessly took care of Dad to the very end. She would hate to be acknowledged, but hey, we got to give credit where credit's due, right? So, yeah. Dad used to tease my mom, telling everyone she was a nerd growing up. Fun fact, on a New Year's Eve field trip at a school event, she was the only one that showed up. No one was going to go to a school event on New Year's Eve. I bet he loved tease her. He also did the best impression of her being on hold during a phone call. I won't even attempt it because I could not do it justice. It was hilarious. All right. Dad, I love you, I miss you, but this is not goodbye. Because of God's grace, I will see you again, fully healed and restored. I can't wait. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Don't tell me these things. Okay, so I guess I should introduce myself for everybody who's been wondering who this weird guy is up here. I'm with her. She only admits it on major holidays and paintings and things like that. And if you want somebody to blame for me, my parents are sitting over here. They're trying to hide. A few things about Mr. Winne is I kind of came in late to the picture a couple of decades ago. For the record, I am still planning on marrying her. I'm a slow person. It takes some time, okay? So I've heard a lot of stories about him when he was younger. And something about taking a drug testing light to Christine or Lori's date or something out of the car. Yeah, I heard a lot of things about that, but I can't use the word like unpretentious like Lori did. I'm from the South and the Midwest. We don't use big words like that. I leave that to the Yankees up here, but that's. But one thing about him is he was always a guy that I don't think you could rattle him. By the time I met him in life, he was just so laid back and casual and just, I raised my daughters. They moved out. They moved back in. They moved back out. And then they moved back in. And about the time Christina and I got together, there was things going on in life, it happens. And I moved back in with my parents, and She moved back in with her parents, and I was helping her find an apartment. And we're sitting back having a beer, and he's like, you two are such good friends, you should just get a place together. Yeah, I didn't figure that one out for a little while, but that's okay. I remember one time we went to a movie theater. I took him out to see a movie because we both like the war movies. And he noticed that the Mexican restaurant across in the parking lot had changed names. So, Lori, actually, I don't think he knows this story. So we had to go over and go see it. So we went over and saw it, and this poor waitress is sitting there for 25 minutes getting the story of back when it was one name and another name, and when he used to be here, and when he moved here in like 1975 or 8 or something. And she's looking at me, and I'm like, you're on your own. I'm not touching this one, all right? There were a lot of good times with him. He's went to a lot of games together and had a lot of fun. But I think the funniest thing ever was when I took him out for the movies, because that was our thing. Then we went out to eat, and I was kind of nervous and getting ready. Having a Marine dad and being from the South, there's certain ways we do things, So we're sitting there, and I'm getting nervous, and I'm like, okay, well, I've been with your daughter about 15 years now, right? I kind of want to propose to her. Now, he's a probation officer from New York. I'm expecting something. One of those, you hurt my daughter, I hurt you type of thing. Or I know someone who knows someone who knows someone, He just looks me straight in the eye and he goes, yeah, and? Is that a yes? You know what you want to do? You want to get pizza? But it was just, the guy just didn't react. But the important thing is, like Lori said, this is a celebration of life. It's not a loss. When you look around a room like this, what's amazing, and you see all these different generations. What do we got? Boomers, Gen X, Gen Z, Millennials, and all those things. What's amazing when you think about his life is this is a guy that started with no TV, to black and white TV, to color TV, to probably standing on the roof while his dad yelled at him to adjust the area of 10 inches. He doesn't know about that. This is a man who saw people go up into space in orbit of the Earth, land on the moon, to space shuttles, to now we have Justin Bieber. Go figure, right? He's seen everything that was science fiction to him when he was a young kid in comic books. That is now real. It's just really amazing to know a man like that who saw so many things happen. And to actually know him and speak to him and hear his stories and the things that happened. I don't know that you guys used to sneak to the kitchen, so I just listened to all the stories. That's okay. I knew that. But you guys are probably tired of hearing from me, so I'm going to introduce my beautiful future wife. And, hold on, aren't you the oldest?
Yes.
How old are you?
Marriage is on.
Miss Christine.
Coming. Okay, so my dad gave us a poem before he passed that he wanted us to remember him by, so I'm going to read that to you. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glint on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you wake in the morning, hush. I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds encircling flight. I am the soft starlight at night. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. So he would like you to remember him that way. And also, we will remember my Aunt Joan as well, and my brother Greg. Thank you.
You have help on that? Why am I using this thing? I'm loud enough anyway. I've been living New Yorker for 20 years. Come on. Well, it's okay because she has washed the windows. And if you want to know, how is it dark? We have a lot of fun in our house. But I guess I'd like to open up to people who filled out those memory cards. Now, we need someone to volunteer to come up first. Perfect. Come on up. I have no idea who you are, so you have to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I am Uncle Gary's nephew, right? No, it's never good.
Okay, Uncle Gary's nephew, not good at these things. Here you go.
I'm Mark. Nice to meet everyone. Unfortunately, my mother passed away right around the time that Gary did, who they've been speaking about. So I appreciate everything, the kind words, and Uncle Gary was just a wonderful person. So, unfortunately, my father, Ron, who is my Uncle Gary's brother-in-law, couldn't be here today. So I have a couple of things to say on his behalf. I realize that in public speaking, you're never supposed to read directly off a paper, but I realized my father wanted me to give this directly. So, also he wrote it in first person, so if I say I actually mean my father said. Joan and my father always had a special relationship with Gary and Judy because Judy and Ron had the same birthday. And Gary and Joan shared June 19th as their day, so a lot of coincidences. But Gary and Joan died within a couple of days of each other. But the shared birthday meant that when we all lived in New York, we celebrated our birthdays together. My fondest memory, so my father's fondest memory, was his love of sports. He was a Jets fan, and when they were still playing at Shea Stadium in Queens, when they were still playing in Shea Stadium in Queens, but when they moved to New Jersey, he would occasionally coerce me to go with him to the Meadowlands since we lived in Hackensack, a lot of East Coast towns here, right? And it was easier to go to the game from there instead of driving to the island. This love of sports got transplanted to California. One time when we were visiting in September, he dragged me, the boys, Greg, and I think Christine, to an Angels game, which I very much remember. I saw them. It was towards the end of the season, and the Angels were out of contention, so there were a few people at the game, so we got to sit in choice seats. I remember Bo Jackson hitting a long home run, watching the happiness on Gary's face that we were both present to see it. Another time when we had a sister reunion in Cincinnati, so many sister reunions all over the country, he again dragged the boys to see a Reds game in the new stadium. I never asked him if he was trying to get to every Major League stadium. Can't remember who won, but we had a great time. Many times when I was able to get to the West Coast on business, I would always try and visit or have dinner with Gary and Judy. After a couple of beers, Gary would tell me the stories of his clients and some of the strangest things he had seen. My favorite was when he went into someone's family room and all the furniture had their legs cut off. The reason he told me is that being lowered to the ground may protect them from drive-by shootings. Funny but sad. And my father's commentary. Gary loved his grandchildren. He was a joy being present when Cassie, Danielle, and Peter were growing up. Whenever I asked them, he would always go into a long discussion of Pete's love of trains. My last conversation with Gary was the day after Aunt Joan died, so my mother. He called with condolences and tried to cheer me up. I knew that he was very sick, and probably the last time I would ever speak to him. I was in a daze over Joan's death, so I kept conversation short as not to overwhelm both of us with his sadness. Gary, rest in peace. I will do everything I can to help my loving sister-in-law deal with Bella Parisa, loving his husband and sister. But he was really a great man, and we're just so glad we could be here today and celebrate Gary's life.
Well, I was talking to my wife Jennifer about all the trips that Judy and Gary and Jennifer and I shared, And Jennifer reminded me of a cruise to Mexico with them. And it was to the Mexican Riviera, and we docked mid-morning in Ensenada. Lots of time for lunch, lots of time for shopping. Towards the end of the afternoon, we thought, we really have to make a visit to Husong's Cantina and see what's going on. So, no trip to Ensenada is complete without Husong's. So a few years later, Gary and I, and maybe whoever was with us, decided we should celebrate being at Husong's with a cigar. No idea where we got them, but a while later, one of the girls said, when Gary and I were sitting there puffing our cigars, one of the girls said, you know what, we have about 7 minutes to get back to the dock before our boat leaves. So we ditched the cigars, jumped up, scrambled out, got to the boat, made it back in time, and whenever I smell a cigar, I remember the Ensenada cigar with Gary. Great memory, I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Tim. I'm one of the son-in-laws. Gonna have another son-in-law really quick here. But yeah, I didn't even know I'd be up here today, so I really didn't think of anything. But what I would say is that when I met Lori and the first time she took me home to meet her parents, I just remember how welcoming they both were to me, which was apparently, that didn't make me special. It just meant that that's how they are. They're very welcoming people. And they welcomed me and their family. And they never referred to me as their son-in-law, but as their son. And it's always meant a lot to me. Yeah, there's a lot of funny stories, but I'll leave those to other people. And we'll be talking about them for years anyways. But I just wanted to share that. He wasn't Gary to me, he wasn't Dad to me, he was Pops. He was always Pops. I think I may, in 21 years, I knew him, referred to him as Gary 3 times, but he was always Pops. And we went to a lot of Angels games together and had fun. Even though we get altitude sickness. But it was always fun being with him because he made it fun. He had a great sense of humor. He could find humor in anything. And there's one quick story. We went to an Angels game once, and sitting behind us, they're just some total strangers. Had no idea who they were. And by the time the game was over, he was pretty much best friends with them. He just was, and that's the kind of person that he was, you know. And I mean, they're at home, and he'd go out in the neighborhood, and people see him coming and run for cover. And those are just the people who didn't have time. But yeah, he loved a good conversation, but he was a precious man, and I feel very blessed to have known him. So thank you. No double dipping.
Hey, okay, so now I do know I see some cards out there, guys. Don't have to wait to be called up, just come on up. I'm looking at this table over here. He's looking around, but he doesn't see me. It's okay. Come
All right, so I'm Steve, and I'm the neighbor that lives and was fortunate enough to live next door to Gary and Judy for 20 years. And there are so many fond memories of Gary that I put a few down here. But one of the fondest memories I'll ever remember with Gary was when football season would come around. Gary knew the stats, he knew all everybody. I was a Chargers fan, he was a Jets fan. He knew everything my Chargers were doing right or wrong. So he would tell me what they did good, what they did wrong, and he'd always brief me on what was going to happen for the season. But some of the fondest memories were putting our jerseys on and we would walk to the ladies. And Gary said, we can't get in any trouble if we walk. And I said, oh no. So we would walk to the ladies with our jerseys on, we'd have a couple beers and we'd walk back home. But those were some of the most joyous times. And Gary's team being the Jets, they were losers. My team being the Chargers, they were losers. We pretty much had losing seasons for many years. And this last year, if anybody watched football, the Jets did a darn good job and almost got themselves into the playoffs. I know Gary had to have been really pleased to see that. So I want to just share a couple things with you. Gary had such a fun, loving sense of humor since the first day that I met him. That was 20 years ago. And one thing I can say, he never lost it. Not even in his difficult times. Gary had a genuine fond love for children and animals, and of course for his family and for Judy. Gary was always there to lend guidance and support throughout the years, and was always such a joy to speak with and share a conversation. And I will remember there was a time I was working on my daughter's car. And Gary came over and he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm working on my daughter's car. And he said, well, where's your daughter? I said, well, Melanie came here and told me, Gary, that I was going to fix this, and that, and all these things. I said, and I only volunteered to do an oil change with her. And Gary said, well, then when she comes home, you tell her, I'm not your mechanic, I'm your dad. So I only did the oil change that I told you I was going to do. And what a wonderful conversation that ends up being, because my daughter actually realized that I wasn't just a mechanic, I was a father, and she wanted to do those things, we do them together. And so it helped me to work with her, to work with me, to do those things together, through Gary's wisdom and his knowledge of sharing his feelings. I'll say Gary always would acknowledge you, and he had a wonderful way of making you feel important, making you feel wanted and needed. And if it was a bad day that you were having or he was having, he could make us all smile, and it's just a wonderful trait that Gary had. I'll always remember that for him. This one here is from my wife, Christine. She says, his quick wit and infectious smile always could brighten the darkest days. I think there's a really fun time that I remember Christine remembering, my wife over there. She says to Gary, oh, well, Gary, you found the money seat. And Gary starts scuffling his hand all around. He's ripping the mattress apart. He's trying to just, where's the money? And it's just always something with Gary. Oh gosh, the diehard Jets fan, whether they won or lost. And then I just want to finish with this, may God bless you, Gary. You will always be remembered and never forgotten. You are forever and always in our hearts and lives. Love the Meyer family. And we love you, Judy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom. I'm Gary's neighbor. I drove here on my bike like planes, trains, and automobiles from far away, and I took the bus. And was like, how did you get here? I'm serious. But I just walked in, and I knew Gary very little time, but we talked a lot. He came to try to talk to me all the time, and sometimes, because during COVID, I kind of kept my distance from him, as well as everybody else. But I didn't mean any harm. And he tried to shake my hand once, and I felt odd about it, but it wasn't personal, And so I just know he was a great guy. He liked to talk to me about his work at Santa Ana. And I listened, and it was like he's my friend, and I'll miss him. And Judy, I hope the best for you, and I'll be there for you still. And I guess that's it. I just love Gary for the little time I knew him, and he, I couldn't do much but try and help him when I could. So,
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Granillo, and I worked with Gary in Santa Ana. I believe I started as a juvenile probation officer in 1985 there, and then Gary maybe started with us around 86 or 87. But at that time, the juvenile unit of Santa Ana, there was no gang unit. We did everybody, you know, and we had guys that were involved in gang shootings, drug use, everything. And so I was kind of wondering how this guy with the New York accent's going to do. But you know, I wasn't worried about him, but you know, there's a bit of a slight culture difference there. But Gary told me he would always talk about New York, his New York experience, and as a probation officer there. And I mean, I heard all the stories again and again. I think I know everybody he's worked with in New York. And I mean, I'm serious. But then I know that Gary's dad was a fireman, and he often talked about how dangerous that job was in New York, and I guess it was in New York City he worked in, or in that area. But let's see. Well, eventually I transferred around 1990 to a different assignment in a different city. But Gary remained in Santa Ana for a couple more years, and then he moved on to another assignment. And eventually. I just remembered him. Him and I used to go to Angel games when they had Orange County Day or something. And on one occasion, I had my two kids were with me. They're all grown up now, and Gary. And he always enjoyed that. He always enjoyed meeting your family and stuff like that. And I do know, during that time, those early years that I worked with him, and that his mother was still alive at the time, and she was in a residence for
Assisted living, yes.
Yeah, assisted living. He saw her like several times a week after work. He would just go in there. And I do know that, well, I knew Gary pretty well because I liked Gary a lot. And I was always willing to listen to anything he'd say. So I knew that he cared about his family, like the world, his wife, his kids, and everybody else there. So, and then eventually I retired. I think Gary retired around the same time I did. I'm not quite sure because we had different assignments. And once you move to a different, like I went to adults and he was still in juvenile, so it's like two different worlds. So. But he would call me. He would take Pete to the Fulton train station, and he would call me and say, "Hey, I'm going to come with Pete to the train station today. How about if you meet me there?" I go, "Oh, great, you know." So him and Pete would take the train, and Pete could tell. He would look at a train headlight and know what kind of train it was. If it was an Amtrak or a freight train. He just knew. And then Gary and I would just talk about whatever. But Gary always had a lunch for him and drinks and stuff. He really took good care of Pete. And then every now and then Gary and I would go to lunch in the area, and not a whole lot, but yeah, I mean, I was just amazed at how good Gary was with Pete. He was just, he was just awesome. And I think probably the last time I saw him in person was about 5 years ago, I'm guessing. I think he was up there in the Fulton train station. It's kind of a fairly good sized train station. And I live there. It's pretty close to where I live. So anyway, I think we had lunch on Footwear at a Mexican restaurant. And then, that was probably the last time I saw him. And then, but we used to talk on the phone like a couple times a year. And so we keep in touch and stuff like that. So I knew Gary liked to bowl, and he did it as pretty much as long as he could. And one of the things I remember about Gary, I mean, and Gary actually had a lot of friends in probation. I mean, people like he was a likable guy, and apparently, and so I could go name a few guys that would like to be here, but they're out of state or wherever. So, but the one thing about Gary, I'll close with this one, is that I don't think he ever met a guy he didn't like. He always said, "Oh, that guy's a great guy," and and I was thinking, man, if Gary ever said this guy's a bum, he was in trouble. He's been a really bad guy or something. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak. I miss Gary. We did a lot of other stuff through the years because we were actually fairly close friends, even though we kind of had I lived in northern Fullerton. He lived in Misson Viejo, and it was kind of tough for him to drive up there. But most of the time I saw him, we'd meet in Fullerton, and he'd take the train with Pete, and then that's always good. Those are all great memories. Thank you.
I'm not sure how well I'll get through this.
Just get with me.
And if I don't get through this, I'll just hang off the mic. I thought it was going to be fine. So,
I'll stand with you.
So we moved into the neighborhood in 2013. I'm the neighborhood that's infamously known as the Pink House, or like to refer to it as Santa, just to what is a normal color. All my neighbors, including Gary, be like, "When are you going to paint that house?" But Gary and Judy were always so warm. And he loved my brother Fuzzy. That's hilarious. He would bring Mazzy over to his backyard to play because he liked to throw the tennis balls. And he'd come back over with her after a few minutes and he'd be like, "Yeah, Mary, we have a really good dump in my backyard." And he'd be like, "Do you want me to come over and clean it up?" He's like, "Oh no, I don't fertilize the plants." And there were times when how the stories about him sneaking candy to the kids. Oh, he would sneak dog treats galore to Mazzy, to the point where Mazzy ended up having a few indigestion issues and left quite a mess in my backyard. So I'm like, "Gary, she's having digestional issues, so I had to keep a strict diet for her." He didn't care. So he spoiled the crap out of my dog. Yeah. Literally. When Steve and Nick would watch the football games up in the garage, he'd come out and shot it up. And, sometimes I would feel bad for him wanting to talk. And, I tried to be his patient. That would be rude. He's enjoying telling this story. But I have to go pick up my kids, or I got to go to the grocery store. But I love his stories. But while watching the football games, or sometimes they just come over, and if I was having a hard day,
He'd offer me beer. Sometimes I'm wondering how long that beer was sitting in his fridge. It expired 8, 9 years ago. But he always knew what to say. He was unshakable. I'll miss him.
I thought that was Jen's job. So apparently I'm up here again and no one told you. One thing about this family is you do learn that there's things you're supposed to do and they just don't tell you. And I know when Christine comes up and gives me that look, it's like, I gotta do something. Anyway, thank you for everybody that came up and spoke. Ms. Winne, would you like to come on up with me? We got Miss Judy Mason. Win again.
You know I'm not a public speaker.
I don't know, after that last time you did much better than me. Lori, can you come join us, Sam? There's two things we know about you.
Okay, we want to thank you again for coming and being here for Gary. I know he would love it. And our whole family is here. And I don't think we introduced Danielle.
Most people know her.
Okay.
Firstborn, grandchildren.
I know, the family is, yeah, and we all live in the same area, which is a blessing, you know, and especially right now when we need each other. So, we're here, united, to be here for Gary, and thank you all for being with us. You're very
Videos if you want to watch it. And it's before the video's back on, stay as long as you want, but in honor of my dad, take some food to go. Food to go. And friends. Please take some food to go.
And it's not expired.
In honor of my dad, because my dad's philosophy and mine was, if it's your plan, it's going to be good.
One more thing, for those of you who lived in the neighborhood, you probably have long memories of the little black Toyota truck. We call it the little black truck, we call it the LBT for short. This was one thing that really irritated Pops, because it happened all the time. People would come and knock on your door, do you want to sell your truck? No, I don't want to sell the truck, get out of here. He said, always said he was going to do it. I don't know if he ever did it or not. He was going to put a sign on the truck, not for sale. That was Pops.
You have a picture of that truck.